What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, we made it. It's 2024. Hopefully everyone out there had a fun and safe New Year's Eve. And this is probably one of the few mornings where I could have gotten away with posting this video at noon. But hey, shout out to the people out there who are here right away, 8 a.m. Eastern time. But today we do have a bunch of stuff to go over, which includes some shocking updates, I'll say, for that MIG Switch, the flash cart for the Switch, and when it comes to the backstory and where exactly this device is coming from, and we're going to go over some of those allegations here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the potential for a remaster, a collection of games that could be set up for Nintendo's next system, which is odd because backwards compatibility, right? And we're also going to be talking about Microsoft with maybe some plans they have for a new controller that might be taking a bit of a page out of Nintendo's book. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, as we of course are expecting a remake or just an HD version being moved up to the current system. Well, we did see the rating has gone live now for the ESRB, and you can see some of the description here. Pretty straightforward. This is an adventure role-playing game in which players help Mario rescue Princess Peach from an alien group. So again, nothing too crazy in here in the description from the ESRB. However, we don't have a launch date for Thousand Year Door yet, as well as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Both of those, though, have been rated in the past couple of weeks, and we're anticipating to hear news about their release dates probably any time now. I mean, yeah, we're into 2024, and it's like the first week, so maybe towards the end of January, we could see some Twitter posts go up just detailing those release dates and starting to set up Nintendo's 2024 with those games, but it's going to be a very busy and packed time for Nintendo here over the coming months, and these are games that could end up in the first half of this year as we expect Nintendo to push towards their next generation system. I still think in the second half of 2024, but who knows with Nintendo. Also, we did have that complete meltdown of the day before with the studio behind it shutting down just after a couple of days, the game being pulled from Steam so you can't purchase anymore. However, some apparently keys have been going for way over that original sticker price of $40, and now it appears some people from the community are trying to make the game playable offline. This is posted up over on Twitter, X, from PC Focus, saying the day before offline crack is in the works. The user here, Real Lucio, plans to reroute the server connection to a local connection, which would return true and would in theory let you in the game. Now, they also reply here saying that no promises or ETAs as of now. It's very early, and me and we'll say Cart are doing our best. More info will come to this page once it's available. Interesting, because I don't know how many people kept the day before. I feel like a lot really just said, you know what? We're refunding this. We're moving on. What an incredible week or so after that release, right? Seriously, it's just mayhem. But I guess technically the game, if you have it in your library and you could do this, you'd be able to play it just full single player. Just don't really know how worthwhile that experience really is to have. Oh, and it does look like we got a relieving update, we'll say, for GranBlue Fantasy Relink. We can see this was posted up by Genki as it was announced in Famitsu, so shout out to Genki for the translation here. The game has finally gone gold. This is according to the director, saying, thanks to your support, we were finally able to complete GranBlue Fantasy Relink, which we have been developing for a long time. They are right, as it was first revealed in 2016, and it's bounced around quite a bit in development. You know, I'm pretty excited for this game. From what we've seen so far in trailers, some of the gameplay, it looks like a good time, but we are expecting a demo in January, so I guess we'll find out exactly how it plays here in the coming weeks, but then we also don't have to wait too long as it is set up for that first quarter 2024 release. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this Nintendo Switch flash cart named the MIG Switch that when it showed up online absolutely took the internet by storm. The idea of having a cartridge that can work on any system, any stock Switch, OLED, light, red box, and you would load your games on an SD card. That's very intriguing for many people, right? And looking at what they were showing, it seemed to be working in the video. Then we got the website, and more information was coming out from a certain Twitter account, Aftertime X, and I noted very briefly, it was interesting that this one source appears to have the in with the people behind this product, and it's not a Twitter account I've ever really heard of or anything. but they had quite a bit of info. Well, now many questions are being raised around the relationship between this outlet, Aftertime X, that's covering it, and really the people who are delivering this product, apparently still set for release this month. Well, we can see this posted up as Mike Heskin really started to dig into this, saying early 2019 is when the AftertimeX.com domain was originally purchased by James Cagney. You'll notice this is a trope where they use names of deceased celebrities from the early to mid 20th century using the email address, and the domain remained inactive until September 3rd, 2023, when Gary OPA messed up the transfer and exposed his personal IP address. Okay, so you can see Wololo actually went ahead and did a screen cap of it, saying it's possible that Aftertime X are just a front pretending to be a regular news site, but really just hyping the MIG Switch. That wouldn't be the first time. This is basically what Max Consoles was. Now, you may have heard of Gary OPA before because we have covered them. And in fact, when Mike Heskin was asked about who was behind this for things like you see SXOS and Gateway 3DS, just responded yes. This was the Switch modder that made the news for a few reasons. One, their name is Gary Bowser, which, I mean, you can look at Nintendo and say, okay, that lines up with them fighting against Bowser in the courtroom, sure. But Gary Bowser, part of Team Executor, got out, actually in prison, on good behavior after a few years, but they still owed Nintendo $14.5 million. The idea being, as this headline spells out, likely owes Nintendo for the rest of their life. As in, Nintendo will just continue to garnish wages or just show up with a bill every month, really, just until the end of time for you to never really pay back $14.5 million. Again, this is Nintendo. They're very petty in the courtroom, and they will make sure an example is set. Well, Gary did respond, apparently, over on Discord, saying they were a subject of DNS poisoning attack on name servers, repairing the damage, and changed all my passwords. And then went on to say, sadly, people will talk, etc., etc. But Mike Heskins also pointed out, I mean, their IP address was exposed. So this doesn't look good in that regard, since like just get out of prison after a couple of years, you feel the wrath of Nintendo, and then you go back to create this flash cart, which, again, people have a lot of interest in right now, and I'm sure plenty of money could be made off of it, but Nintendo is looking into this. You think people on Twitter, sure, Mike Heskins is very, very talented when it comes to sort of the modding scene and security and that sort of thing. But Nintendo will really dig into this and figure out where it's coming from, who's making it, and if it really is Gary Bowser who is in some way involved, that's not going to go over well for them in the courtroom with Nintendo right there. Now, I think it is very, very important to note that right now, these are like allegations. They're still trying to put all the pieces together for that, but people are certainly looking around right now. And then it also comes back to that Aftertime X account that's acting like an outlet, but seems to more or less be pushing this product with a quote-unquote in with the people behind the product, when really they would also probably be the people behind the product, presenting it with a go-between here. So it just feels very, very shady, and it's not a great look for something that people are already looking at kind of sideways, like, is this an actual thing? Well, apparently it's coming out this month, so we'll find out, I guess, in a couple of weeks, or we'll hear about Nintendo tracking people down and just cutting it out completely. But I am curious. I know MVG is very familiar with a lot of the stuff that's been going on for even decades in the hacking scene, especially with Team Executor. So I'm actually wondering if he's going to make a video kind of detailing and explaining some of his thoughts on this, as he has alluded to online on like Twitter and stuff. So I guess keep an eye on his channel, because I'm very curious to hear what his thoughts will be on this. But yeah, a lot of questions still popping up around this flash cart, this MIG Switch, so we'll see if we get some answers here soon. Next up, let's talk about a rumored remaster or collection of remasters that could be hitting Nintendo's next system. Now, we can see this posted up. This is over on My Nintendo News, and I did initially see this starting to float around a few days ago, but it sounded kind of weird. But then we see headlines pop up all over the place for this, and it's because it's coming from Nash Weedle, who has proven to be credible on some things in the past and then just completely miss on others. But still, you hit on a few things, and yeah, you'll get these kind of headlines, people following you, where it says that leaker Nash Weedle has mentioned on Twitter that the successor for the Switch will be getting a Bayonetta trilogy. containing all 3 main titles. Trilogy will have visual and performance enhancements, including HDR. Nash Weedle also thinks the Nintendo will announce the Switch 2 before the end of March. I think it's more speculation on Nash Weedle's part. This sounds weird. Okay, so we've seen Bayonetta get ported and remastered on other Nintendo systems, so that's not like a new thing. The Wii U, as an example, Bayonetta 1 shows up there, right? Alongside of, they have Bayonetta 2. It's kind of a pack-in thing. That's fine. But then we get to the Switch, and Bayonetta 1 and 2 come over in a collection, then Bayonetta 3 comes out. That makes sense considering, okay, so for the Wii U, Bayonetta 1 was not there originally. All right, that was on like the 360 and the PS3 and stuff, so why not move it to the Wii U, because here comes Bayonetta 2. They go into the Switch, format change. We saw Nintendo do this over and over and over again, take Wii U games, move them over to the Switch, and find new life there. But the idea going to this next system is it's backwards compatible. Why would we need this when you can just pop in your copy of the 1 and 2 collection or Bayonetta 3 and it would download a patch to then take advantage of the newer system? Unless Nintendo has a different plan in the sense that, well, if we package all these together and then we charge money for a patch or an upgrade, kind of like what we see right now with Sony, where they do the $10 upcharge to get better visuals, some new content, that sort of thing, quality of life. Is that the path Nintendo is going to go down? Because it seems kind of odd to go this route where you package all 3 of them together in one $60 or $70 SKU when Bayonetta 1 and 2 and then Bayonetta 3 already were. Are you diminishing the value of those? I'm not really sure what the strategy would be here. So this would be, I think, a confusing message for Nintendo to send, and that's one of the reasons I don't necessarily believe it's exactly as explained here. I think more or less, you just take your Bayonetta 1 and 2 or Bayonetta 3, pop it in the new Switch, and you'll get some sort of patch from there, and then Nintendo will sell these different games digitally on the new system, and that's kind of how it'll be. The patch will come with it. At least that's what I'm expecting, but who knows? Nintendo does some weird stuff. This just seems a little too confusing even for them to attempt. Next up, let's talk about some potential controllers from Microsoft that appear to look very much like Nintendo's own Joy-Con controllers, or I guess you could say like the backbone controller that attaches to the tablets or your phones, which you can see some of the screenshots here. This was shared by Idle Sloth on Twitter, citing Game Rant, who seemed to spot the patent. And it does just look like 2 separate controllers that go on the either end of cell phones or tablets. All of that being displayed here with sort of the concave on either side where it would grip and then be able to connect to your system. And this isn't a shocking idea for Microsoft because they have shown a lot of interest in getting into mobile gaming in a more meaningful way. All right, so like, they have Minecraft on phones. Sure, that's one way, but I mean, really dive into it where they have their own storefront. Remember, they've been pushing hard to get that done. They've been following along with all the litigation that's been hitting Apple and Google, and it does look like they're going to get their way, at least on Android, where they will be able to have some sort of Xbox store, and that'll work to tie everything together with them having it on consoles and having it on PC, and then mobile. In fact, when they were buying Activision Blizzard, one of their big arguments was, we're trying to compete on the mobile front, and looking at what Activision Blizzard King has available, it would really help us kickstart that division. So maybe you make controllers like these to go alongside of it, because I don't necessarily think they're going to go back to making a Windows phone. I don't think Microsoft is going to make a handheld, unless, who knows, maybe we get to 20 years in the future, these mobile chips are so powerful, you might as well make a hybrid system like Nintendo has already started to do now with the Switch. But it just seems like this could have been an accessory Microsoft was considering, as these are patents, and maybe it's something they're not necessarily going with any longer. That's the biggest part to remember with these patents we go over. It's more or less an idea that they've had at some point, at least enough of an idea to make it somewhat official with legal documents. I do also want to remind people that this is something that sort of showed up in those FTC documents. If you remember, part of the lineup for different systems, controllers, there was one that looked like one of these attachments from the patent that was kind of like its own Joy-Con that seemed like it was set up to attach to a phone or a tablet. And Phil Spencer has said some of those plans have changed. So Is it possible we could see something like this happen at some point? Sure. It would probably just be shown as an accessory that's officially licensed from Microsoft, and you would buy it on Amazon or maybe get lucky and see it in a Best Buy somewhere. But I don't think this is a prelude to Microsoft approaching the market with their own dedicated handheld. They seem pretty happy backing something like the ROG Ally, at least for now. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about an interview that Shigeru Miyamoto had with The Guardian. And in this interview, he was asked about retirement. Now, if you're unaware, Miyamoto is currently 71 years old. So he's getting up to the point where you figure he'd want to retire and ride off into the sunset, enjoy his later time in life. But it seems like he's still very much locked into what he's doing currently at Nintendo. And, every time you see him in directs, whether it's for like a theme park or the movie or anything like that, he does seem actually pretty happy with what he's doing. Well, we can see this over on The Guardian. When asked about retirement, he says, "More so than retiring, I'm thinking about the day I fall over." It's quite dark. In this day and age, you have to think about things in a 5-year time span. So I do think about who I can pass things on to in case something does happen. I'm really thankful that there is so much energy around things that I have worked on. These are things that have already gone out into the world. They've been cultivated by others. Other people have been raising them, helping them grow. So in that sense, I don't feel too much ownership over them anymore. I mean, if you consider Mario or Zelda, and they have grown quite a bit since their initial inception decades ago, but you still think of Nintendo and you still think of Shigeru Miyamoto, obviously. But the idea of him having to maybe pass things on to someone else is interesting, because I don't think you'd ever really look at anyone else within Nintendo the way you'd look at Shigeru Miyamoto and what he's been able to do for gaming. But again, it's kind of dark to say, I don't really think about retirement just the day I fall over. It's like, well, okay, Miyamoto, but I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. I think he's legitimately having a blast doing things even outside of games, with the theme parks especially. He seems to get a kick out of that. And then the movies. Think about seeing your creations go from you planning out these Mario on these tiled block graph paper, and now you have a movie that grosses over, $1.3 billion, and you get to a live action movie with The Legend of Zelda. Seems like things are going really, really well for Miyamoto, and I guess even at the age of 71, he has no plans to slow down. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, with the next Nintendo system expected to be revealed in 2024, how are you feeling about the possibility of backwards compatibility? All right, 54% say it will have complete backwards compatibility with cartridges and digital. So more than half people are thinking, yep, that's it. 99% of games backwards compatible. 34% say it will have some backwards compatibility with exceptions. And I mean, I do wonder about licensed games. That's like, we see what's going on right now with Microsoft and some of their backwards compatibility, where it doesn't quite hit across the board for the 360 because they have to go back and do so much work to get it there. And then 12% say there won't be any backwards compatibility. That would be that'd be an interesting presentation for Nintendo, is what I'll say there. But hearing about remasters and stuff for games that should just work out of the box by popping it into the system is weird and should raise eyebrows. I mean, I feel like there's something being missed with some of the information there, if it's even somewhat true, but I guess you never know with Nintendo. But it's hard for me to believe that they would look at selling over 1 billion pieces of software with the Switch and then go, nah, we're just cutting all that off with the next system. Just doesn't even make a lot of sense business-wise with the customers that they've been able to accrue this generation. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Kale, who says, I don't despise early game announcements, but I think some of the trailers for those games fail to keep expectations around the release date, I would say, shown. Yeah, that's the other thing, is development behind the scenes is so fluid. It's so difficult to get these games to the finish line, and we don't see any of that. Sometimes we'll get documentaries that really showcase how stressful and how difficult games are just to complete and get out the door, but it's like 98% of the time we just don't. Like, if you see Raising Kratos, it looked many times like that game was just done. It was just not coming out, and that was God of War. For PlayStation, massive intellectual property for them, and the struggle there was insane. Then you hear about how some games with like a Call of Duty, thousands of people working on this thing. Think about having to communicate and coordinate all of that. Yeah, that's one franchise that I'm actually shocked has come out every single year without fail. So now consider games that have 6-year runways, now it's 7 years, and then, oh, we told people years ago it was going to be out in 2023, and now it's a 2024 or 2025 game. It's just difficult to plan all this stuff out, and that is probably a reason why I would never talk about release dates, release years, until you are absolutely sure that thing is going gold next week. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. What's the situation currently unfolding around the MIG Switch or the Switch flash cartridge? Are you concerned around maybe where this thing is coming from and the relationship between this Aftertime X outlet and the developers for the hardware? Then also, what about Bayonetta, this collection, remasters going to the next system? Does it sound as weird to you as it does to me? And then these attachments from Microsoft, the controllers, is that something that we see come out from Microsoft, or have plans and direction changed in the background since then? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.